think because it's my email and stuff, people still use it.
I think we're good.
All right.
Right. So, hello everyone.
Hi.
All right.
Before we kickstart things, I'd like to say that we are in the list for the podcast awards. So if you like what you hear, you keep hearing since a while now, you go on the website bit.ly/podcast awards. So it's a capital P and capital A, podcast awards. And then you can choose. There are multiple categories. Unfortunately, you have to register first. But we are in the People's Choice Award category and the TV film category. And you have until the end of July to do that.
All right.
Yeah. Today we have Adam Ross Greene with us.
Hi.
Hello.
Sam, I did.
Most excellent day, sir. So
Bodacious.
we have here the three of us trained at Acting Coach Scotland in 2016 together, and we stayed around because we went along quite well, and now this podcast was born. You trained for the full year the following year. So we went to see shows from time to time, so we know you a bit from before.
Yeah.
I reckon you are on stage again this year at the Fringe. What are the shows? What are they about?
You reckon correct, sir. I am in a couple of shows. I'm in one called The Edge of You, which the lovely Laura, who was on before, has mentioned. It's on at the Space at the Jury's Inn, which is kind of on the Mile, which is nice and central.
That's a good one, yeah.
Nice.
12:05 every day, bar Sundays, from the 3rd to 25th. Plug. No, it's a really nice wee piece, actually. It's about relationships and the differences between kind of what people think versus what they say, and how there's that gap that can sometimes be quite difficult to bridge, particularly when it comes to love and relationships.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
And then, as opposed to that, in the night time, in the evening, from the 2nd to the 26th, I'm performing in a play called Sex, Drugs and a Cup of Tea.
Yes.
A winning night out, 20 to 9, at Sweet Novotel. And that's about a kind of group of flatmates who come together and have this wild Wednesday night. But there's a couple in the flat who they have a bit of a rocky relationship, shall we say. So it's kind of explores themes of domestic abuse, particularly within LGBT relationships. And we've actually partnered with Gallup, who are the only anti-domestic abuse charity for LGBT relationships in the UK.
That's terrible.
So...
Not that
it's-
you're part of it.
yeah.
It's amazing, but it's sad that it's the only one.
The only one kind of exclusively for. There are other ones who deal with it, but kind of... so we've partnered with them. We're doing a bit of fundraising and kind of accepting donations on their behalf. Which is
Cool.
Cool, very nice.
That's
Cool.
good. That's awesome.
give us warm and fuzzies.
Awesome. We'll be plugging your music activity at the end.
Definitely.
But that's one of the main reasons, besides the fact that we knew you from ACS, that you're also you compose, you sing. What are you doing with
Singer-songwriter. Getting back into songwriting recently, actually. I've kind of partnered up with a guy. We're doing some stuff. He's actually down in London just now doing some music stuff. So, yeah, things are looking good on that side of things. So, fingers crossed.
It's not Francis Girola, is he?
No, he's not.
Okay. Because he's doing some music stuff, and he moved to London recently. So, yeah. Okay. A quick shout out to Nippon Kitchen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Such good food.
You know, it's funny here. When we go to the cinema, we always have at least half an hour of ads before the movie, which is quite annoying, especially when they have the ads of the actual cinema, like that Cineworld shit.
Oh, yeah, those ones. Yeah.
Recently,
I'm not bitter because I put myself up for one.
It's true. Even though I guess that's the only time that they're able to have advertise because they don't get the
Well, they don't-
film
yeah, they don't make-
revenue, so
They
they
only
don't
make
make that much money.
Yeah, it's all to do with their in-house sales, really. It's
Yeah.
not to do with selling tickets for movies anymore.
No.
No, I only noticed recently that they start to have Wagamama ads now.
Oh, do they?
Oh,
Yes,
right.
that was quite weird. So, and the day I noticed that, I actually discovered there was a Wagamama around, which was quite funny.
Good advertising, then.
Yeah, Silas from your year, he works there.
Yes, he does.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
He,
Yeah,
thinks
yeah, yeah.
He says that it's really good to work there, actually.
It's gone up in the world. Didn't he used to work at World Buffet or something like that?
Yeah, yeah.
And then now he works at Wagamama,
Working-
slowly working up the culinary ladder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so Nippon Kitchen is definitely better than Wagamama.
Get wrecked.
No, but I mean, it's a bit more expensive. But I discovered yesterday when I went a few days ago, and I went to see Incredibles 2, that they do a 15 quid menu for 3 courses, which was quite cool, because the first time I went there, so the guy looked at me with big eyes when I said the number. I ordered 24 salmon sashimi slices,
Right.
Nice.
and then a ramen, a bowl of with duck bits and stuff, and
Duck bits.
half a pint
Fun stuff.
of warm sake.
Oof.
Oh, yeah, you came home. Yeah, I remember that.
That was
That's
that was
intense.
£50, but no, yesterday it was just 15, and I was as much filled, which was quite cool.
Nice.
Awesome.
Adam R.
Hello.
What is your stance? So we'll be talking a bit about the Fringe, about ACS, about the film, hopefully.
Yeah.
Because you performed with ACS so last year. What is your stance on reviews? We talked about. We had Alistair on for our second episode, and we
Way
talked a
back,
bit
yeah.
about that.
Way back.
Yeah. Do you just ignore them, read them, or read them later, or just?
Personally, I try to avoid them while I'm performing, and then I'll read them after the fact, because I think as an actor anyway, I don't think it's really my place to allow that to influence me. And I try and tell whoever I'm working with that I don't want to know, because I think if the director's there or your team or whoever you're working with, they should be able to tell you what's working and what's not working
Yeah.
based on the kind of show you're trying to put on. So I think reviews can only get in the way of that.
Yeah.
But you'll read them afterwards?
Yeah, morbid curiosity. You just can't help
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, I think partly I would really like to just avoid them forever, just because I'm quite overcritical of myself, and I'm a pessimist, so
Mm-hmm.
it's like. But yes, afterwards I find it really difficult to not read them, even though sometimes they don't talk about the actors at all. They talk about
Yeah.
the actual production, which is
I got one recently actually. I was doing a show called Heroes through in Edinburgh, and Neil Cooper of the Herald came out to give us
nice.
a wee review, but it was a kind of review of the night, so it was like a double bill of plays, and he focused a lot on. It was one of those ones where he kind of just fleshed out what the story was, and then gave like one line about just to summarise his experience of the piece. So, I think they go both ways. Do you know what I mean? Like they can either absolutely ruin you, or they
Yeah.
can boost you right up, or they could be that absolute
I
middle ground where
I come on the stance of who are reviews for. They're never they're not for us.
Yeah.
You know, they don't write them with like, it's not like critiques say when you're in training of like you get given feedback because they want to make you better.
no, it's not feedback.
Reviews are written one to sell papers if it's in a newspaper, or B for whoever who likes that content. Usually if it's a blogger, they have a set base of what they're writing for and their stance. For example, say if it's like somebody that covers LGBT content, they'll write it for an LGBT community sort of idea, as opposed to writing it for an actor who's like, oh, say such and such did this, it'd be nice if they could take it in this direction. It won't necessarily focus on that. But I don't think, well, I know for a fact, like for me, you look at somebody's comment, even if it's nothing to do about your acting, and go, what did I do wrong? If it's like a negative thing, you always try and figure out why they say that.
Yeah.
So it is, during a performance, I'm like, nah. Because I did that to my peril. I found a review in the middle of ours, but it had said nothing about the performance, so we were lucky. But yeah.
would you say during your year of training, there was something that changed the way you view everything you were training on? Because when Patrick Tucker came, it changed the whole perspective of everything that I've been trained on throughout the year. Did you have a moment, or were you comfortable the whole time, or whatever?
No, I was really terrible for a long time. I was absolutely shocking, feeling everything. I don't know. I think it was the Fringe was kind of my turning point. Patrick Tucker was really good when he came in, just for the kind of film aspect, because I think they are two very different crafts, which you need to bear in mind. But no, I think it was kind of during the Fringe I just kind of had this realisation that, because I'd never done any kind of acting before, I went to train at ACS, and then I was very focused on kind of coming from, basically I went to school and then I hadn't really done much in between, just floated about, worked odd jobs for a wee bit, and then I was still very much in that mindset of to pass exams, and this is the theory, and just focusing on the kind of intellectual side of it.
Yeah.
Well, that's fascinating, because I also struggled up until the Fringe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people did, in terms of it was quite kind of theory based, and if you're really good at that, then that's good for you. But some people struggle, and then with the Fringe, all the stuff that you've learnt, you can kind of put it into practice. So it's like it's the first time that you're like, oh, that's what I'm learning, this is what I'm doing, and actually this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
It was the kind of first time I'd actually, I think, it was really weird. It was that moment where we were in it was in the rehearsal room that I got it. Luckily it wasn't just on stage. That was pure, I finally understand what I'm doing. I just stopped, because it was such a rushed, chaotic experience, didn't have time to stop and think and overanalyze and put that pressure on myself, so I just kind of started doing things. And I think because I'd spent so much time learning the technique, like, in my mind, that when it came to kind of just doing things, I didn't have to think about it, so I kind of just started doing stuff, and it was
unconsciously competent.
Is there also the element, because did you have the performance class also?
Yeah,
okay. So I think that what clicked for me is to actually have real, well, you have your peers, yes, but they're your friends, to have actually real people that you've never heard about before, and paying customers. I think that's what made, because honestly, the technique, I really struggled. Too much to think about, and I also struggled with sunk speak up and cheat.
yeah.
That's what I struggled for at least
long time. Yeah,
I did a piece for the kind of 20-minute exam, so you did the 20-minute performance, and you got kind of graded on it, and I was upstaged by a fan. We had a fan in the piece, and it was like a symbolism for something else, but basically I was speaking so quietly that the fan drowned me out, and one of the notes I got in the piece of feedback was great use of fan, and that was the only
brutal.
That was the only positive thing that I got out of that.
I remember stuff like that. Yeah,
it was in a 10-minute piece. I was upstaged by some milk in a wine glass, and that's the name.
I keep forgetting that you were in that scene. Oh yeah, I remember that scene.
It was actually
that was the 20-minute, right? That was the 20-minute, because that was the same day that me and Anouk did after the end. Okay. Because we started with, that was the first piece we did, and everyone it didn't even end when we did the rape scene, but we did the scene after. We did the scene after, which is the interview.
That was the hardest bit. People always say like, "Oh, wasn't the rape scene like the worst?" Like,
no, the bit after, because it sits with you, and that whole scene is about like the impact that the whole experience has had on each other. So we did the last 20 minutes of the play essentially, which was a great idea, because it like gives you that really climactic moment, and then the resolution, which we never really had a chance to do, because you always do scenes, so you never get to feel the full resolution unless before you get to the Fringe, when you do the whole show.
I think that was a big part of the reason why the Fringe was so kind of good for me, was that it was the first time you got to take a character on a full journey in the context of a piece. It wasn't just, here's an excerpt, you need to build, like, without having had the opportunity to experience it, you have to be able to be at that point in their journey and show that. And and out of context, I think a lot of things don't work as well.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah.
I think the after the end scene, I don't know for Anouk, is probably the Anouk. Apart from Bull for me, which I want to produce again with Milk and
You
a Wine
know
Glass.
another Anouk?
I know another Anouk.
You Anouk. I don't
You
mean the
Anouk.
other
I don't mean
one.
the other one.
Nook of the North, mate.
Yeah.
You're in the Nook of the
No,
South.
A Nook of the South.
I am.
That's good. That's pretty good. Every time we rehearsed that scene, we got through the dialogue and it was fine, but each time lines would change order, and then we got to the actual scene, and we didn't actually get the line spot on at all. Like it changed. It changed because we'd experienced the actual moment of doing it in front of an audience and having the stakes were all there and it clicked. And it's the most real acting I think I've ever done, apart from when we did Bull, because that was the other two were attacking me the whole time, which also greatly works, which is why I want to do that whole play, because we did for the 30-minute we adapted Mike Bartlett's Bull down to 30-minute, and we did like an abridged version, so we did the whole piece, so that we managed to take it on a journey. But yeah, you have to have the resolution as an actor. You have to. It's only plays, or well, I guess in the same as film, but I haven't done enough film to know if it still is as satisfying. You know, because you shoot out of order. Having that, taking somebody on a journey.
I think what I learned during the Fringe is that you learn so much through the 3 weeks as well. So you actually have to work so hard beforehand if you're only doing 1 or 2 nights, because you're not getting that experience beforehand of being in front of an audience and with the lights and sound and all the actors being there and it going through like going through the story. And when the 3 weeks ended, I was thinking that I kind of need to be where I was for the last night on the first night. And that's super hard to get to through rehearsal.
Yeah,
Does
I
that
know.
make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah, the fact that you learn in the experience of doing it every day, you're prepared, you know what it is. But on the first day of the actual Fringe, you well, especially if it's your first go, you have no idea what it's going to be like, because it's completely different to what anything you imagine. Because you're like, that's just going to be another performance.
Yeah, like
it absolutely isn't.
I learned so much about my character through performing it, but I would have liked to have known the character, throughout, the first week, then like really understand who she was in like the last performance that we did. So that was the first time that I realized how hard you need to work and how much energy you need to put in through every rehearsal time, because you want to be there on the first night rather than the last.
I think with theatre though, Fringe or otherwise, I think that's the kind of one of the massive benefits of it is you will never be there on the first night. That's why you have previews, and when you have such an extended period, it was like Viola Davis and Denzel Washington when they done Fences, and before they shot the film, they'd been doing it on stage for years, and a big part of the reason that I think the film done so well, I had a few issues about it. Felt the way they shot it very stagey. There was a lot of long shots and stuff, but I suppose that comes with the fact that we're doing it for years. But they kind of they clearly understood the characters inside and out, and I think you're not always going to get there in 2 weeks, and I don't think that's a bad thing
It's
necessarily.
interesting as well, because sometimes you never get there. You can step away, because this is why I want to do Bull again, actually, because I did a really good performance. It's probably the best thing I'd done at ACS, actually. And I sat and thought about it the other day because I read the play again. I'm like, there's so much more you can do, and it's when you get a part and you're so involved, and like, especially when training, you're like, I'm doing this because it's a performance, as opposed to going deeper and looking like, right, what can I do to bring this more to life? I think that just grows with becoming a better actor as well, actually.
Yeah, experience.
There's also this thing that in previews or first days, you always have, which actually relates to the Whiplash film. The director is always there, so you rehearsed for a while, and then the play is not entirely yours because he is there. And just like in Whiplash, there is this in a game interference seeking approval that's there. I don't know if that affects.
Probably.
Yeah.
I think it's different for everyone, but it's definitely a major component.
Yeah, I mean, in a game is very different for everyone. I mean, it's basically that little. My
Petunia.
Prunella.
Prunella. Sorry. Yeah.
Prunella is my worst enemy. It's the little voice in my head that tells me that I can't do anything or whatever she wants to say. But it's kind of no, I've lost my point.
Okay. I went to see you 3 times, guys. For Edgar Town and Walls and Bridges. The first day, mid run, and end of run, so I could see the evolution and then judge you in silence.
Today he breaks his silence.
We've written a review.
Oh, great.
No,
Is this a bad time to tell you we're doing a revival?
we,
I love that.
you're making Walls and Bridges a musical and Edgar Town a children drama.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so there was a film I was not familiar with at all, but I know that our Adam, it's one of his favorites. How was it to play in a version of 12 Angry Men?
That was that was actually really fun. I love ensemble pieces.
It was so good.
It's good to be able to just kind of let go, and once you're on the stage, you're not having to worry about exits and entrances. You're just there. Whatever happens. Especially something like that where I think there was 13 of us. Not all angry men. There was some angry women in there too.
Surely there was 12.
No, there was.
It's 12 angry men.
Yeah, hold on.
So surely it would
I'm
be, there's
sure
12 jurors
there was
unless somebody played the
The foreman. No.
No, they're part of the jury as well.
There was someone else. I can't remember who. Guard.
Unless the guard.
Oh, it was
the person
some-
outside ending the...
Yeah, someone played the guard. That's why there was 13 of us. But the 12 of us on stage then.
Right,
It was it was great. I'd never seen the film before we started.
That's probably a benefit for that,
And
for sure.
I didn't watch it because I didn't want to be influenced. Although I think we did a completely different take because it's a stage as well. But just go on, let go, and
Get on with it.
it was great people. So.
Yeah, I never watched it before I knew you were doing the play. So I've watched everything once I knew. So I could see that it was actually a very good version. Yeah, there's an element that is only in the 2 movies, the one with Peter Fonda and the more recent one, where you can actually see.
Do you mean Henry Fonda?
Henry Fonda. Yeah, you can actually see the guy who did it at the start. You can see the face of the it influences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the original teleplay, you don't have that, but in the 2 movies, it is.
That's interesting.
Something I forgot to talk about. We had Nicholas, a friend, on for the Shine episode, an American friend whom I met in Korea for a Hamlet play.
Small world, isn't it?
Yeah. If you are watching this live, it will make more sense when you have listened to this episode. But okay, so that's quite a vast question, but
Here we go.
how do you compose your music? What are your inspirations? Because it's the kind of stuff that really escapes me, and when stuff escape me, I really like. So I'm really wondering how that stuff comes to people that actually are able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It depends really. There's a lot of different ways, and I think there's a lot of kind of theoretical books out there about you do X, Y, Z, and you'll end up with a song, and you can do that. And it can be quite useful sometimes if you hit a bit of a kind of speed bump or a block. But it just depends really. A lot of the time, a really good way for me is I'll just keep learning and playing songs that I like and I enjoy listening to, and then I just start kind of messing about with them and bending them and breaking them until I get something that's completely new. So say I want to write a song in a certain kind of vein or style, I'll take a song that I like that's in that style and I'll just kind of fiddle about with it until until it's no longer recognisable, and that's how you avoid plagiarism.
Yeah, I discovered this amazing piece of not plagiarism because it isn't really, but yesterday I was playing Help with the Beatles, and I was playing it, and I went, this sounds really familiar, and it's the theme from Friends. They've taken the same chord sequence and just played it backwards, and it's
Yeah.
like, fuck.
It changes things. I
Yeah.
think that's why there's a real kind of issue, I think, right now in pop music with the kind of copyright gate. I don't know if there's a proper term for it, but everyone's kind of getting sued for taking ideas and stealing. But I think pop music in particular has always inherently been beg, borrow, and steal of ideas.
Yeah,
Of course.
and I think for people to now be turning around and saying,
I can't do it. Yeah.
although the flip side of that argument is, if you are beg, borrowing, and stealing, you should credit the people that
Your
you're either
help.
sampling
Yeah,
or
that's
who
why
are,
sampling exists.
who are,
Yeah.
who are influencing you. So
Mm.
I don't know.
Cool.
Fine
It's
line.
when people try and pass off clearly what's other people's ideas and thoughts and process, because writing music is such a personal experience, and they try and pass off that creativity as their own. That's
Yeah.
when it's annoying.
Yeah, and what also annoys me is when the audience kind of takes it as like, oh, isn't that person a genius? And it's like, yeah, but they've also been inspired by so many people. So like, you can't say that they're this new thing where, and I think film directors do this all the time. Actually, this links quite well with Whiplash because Damien Chazelle, thank you. I'm such a fiddler.
Start a folk band.
With La La Land.
I knew he was going to say that.
With La La Land. I've actually started. I'm taking violin lessons.
Oh, belter.
So I will be soon a fiddler. Okay. Anyway, a lot of people when La La Land came out were saying that, oh, isn't this such a new idea, and with the color, and isn't he such a genius? And it was like, but this has been done before. And as much as he is a genius in his own right, I think sometimes we forget that like a lot of people have been inspired by other people, and maybe we should also credit those inspirations.
To take us into the movie, it's quite interesting to think that Whiplash is born because of the frustration of trying to make La La Land.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so while he's trying to get La La Land off the ground, he's like, oh, I'm going to write this piece about being in a his experience of being in a jazz band, and also it fueled by the difficulties of trying to succeed in the business.
It was a short at first. J.K. Simmons was already there. I'm not sure about Miles Teller.
It wasn't Miles Teller. No.
But it's quite fast. So today is about Whiplash, starring Miles Teller,
J.K.
Simmons, Melissa Benoit, and a bunch of other people. Paul Reiser
as well. Yeah, the father.
It's okay. So this film got. So it's funny. How do you define supporting role? Is that screen time? Because J.K. Simmons got an Oscar for supporting role. He got a Golden Globe, a BAFTA, a Screen Actors Guild, an ACTA. He got everything.
The lead actor is the protagonist.
Yes, but
the story isn't about J.K. Simmons. It's about Miles Teller's character.
Well, it's the same. It's like oh God, his name escapes me. The Joker. Oh my God.
Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger's posthumous Oscar. Was that not for a supporting role?
That was best supporting actor. Yeah.
Because inherently it wasn't his story, and even though he was the antagonist of it, you know. So
yeah, that's how they do. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Obviously, I was just curious.
I mean, sometimes it is about screen time, because I remember there's a whole statistic about people that have won best actor for the smallest bit of time. One recently we talked about Shine, where Jeffrey Rush won, and he's not on screen for a lot of the movie. He's only in for the last maybe 25, 30 odd minutes of the runtime.
Yeah, it's mostly Noah Taylor.
Yeah.
Is it?
But he is nominated for best lead actor and won subsequently in 97.
Because it's about him.
Well, his portrayal is the best. He accurately, you watch him play David, and it's fantastic because it's playing of somebody that has a disability and a mental disorder with the class that he does.
Yeah, but I don't remember what if he got lead or because he was not top billing. Top billing was the dad and then Noah Taylor, and then him.
I'm going to look up the definition for Yann just to satisfy
Anyway,
him.
did you talking about La La Land? Did you hear or see Ba Land?
What?
No.
Well, I'll do it properly. Ba Land.
Has it any wool?
It's so there is an app, Calm, that does like relax stuff, and they did. I think the movie is like, was it like 48 hours or something, or 9 hours?
I heard about this. No, I did hear about this.
It's just sheep in doing their stuff in where they are, and like it's kind of stuff like you go to sleep and you're counting sheep.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 9-hour experimental film. Anyway, if you
Do you want the definition?
Yeah.
A supporting actor is an actor who performs a role in a play or film below that of the leading actors, and above the part of a bit part. In recognition of the important nature of this work, the theatre and film industry gives a separate award for the best supporting actor or actress.
what was again the award Jeffrey Rush won then?
He won best actor.
Best okay, cool. Cool. We know from Shine, but if you're listening live, you don't know it yet. That the story of Joe Jones is not entirely accurate as it is portrayed in Whiplash. They added, for drama reason, the fact that Joe Jones almost decapitated Charlie Parker and he was booed off stage and cried the next time, and then said, I won't be ridiculed again ever. Well, you can see in I said Shine, sorry,
You
not
said
Shine. Bird.
You meant Bird.
Yes, in Bird I meant. In Bird you can see, and it's also in documents and everything, that it happened a bit like that, but the symbol was thrown at his feet.
It's also because he wouldn't stop playing.
Yeah.
So it's not that he,
Was bad.
this is rubbish, I'm just going to throw a symbol at his head. It was, okay, stop. Okay, stop. Please stop playing. You're rubbish. And then to get his attention, the drummer threw the symbol at his feet. And also it was near him. It wasn't exactly at his feet. It was like next to his feet.
Yeah.
It's funny as well because I know how much cymbals cost. It's like don't throw your cymbals. Cymbals are so expensive.
Wow.
Did you get a director-actor vibe with the whole dragging, rushing? Like, now a bit more angry, less sad. Like,
Well, I mean, I did actually have flashbacks of performance class from ACS because as much as we weren't slapped, okay, so no.
Well, the first week was baptism by fire.
It was pretty brutal because you're kind of new, you don't know anyone, and you're trying hard to act, and you're kind of torn apart every Friday.
For the first 8 weeks.
For the first, yeah. So it was pretty brutal stuff. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't physical ever, but
oh, I
it
see what.
was
Yeah,
pretty,
right.
you know, kind of
Depends
abuse.
how resilient you are, I suppose.
Yeah. And not to take it personally, I think that took me a long time to understand that, you know, the difference between creatively being torn apart or like personally.
Yeah, it was
It's
never a personal thing.
No,
No, and that took me a long time. Even though we were told all the time that didn't really sink in until much later.
Yeah.
Did you, because I started to watch with the commentary on a few days ago, did you know that Miles Taylor had been doing drums since he was 15? So he does all the work in the film. The style that he had was completely different, so he had to train like crazy. But still, he does everything.
He was a rock and roll drummer.
Well, I mean, if you've got the
And
rudiments down,
He taught himself.
that's half the battle. But jazz drumming itself is an extremely different art. It's
Well,
it's-
apparently,
yeah.
the Carl Tanner, the guy that Miles Teller takes the job from,
Mhm.
he is a drummer and specializes in jazz, I think.
Right.
And he was the one that taught Miles Teller how to use the drumsticks in a
The traditional grip.
traditional way. Grip,
Mm.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, as opposed to matchstick, I think.
Yeah.
Don't hold them. I remember I don't play anymore, but I used to play a lot. It's like, don't hold them like a knife and fork is the tip for when you hold matchstick, as opposed to traditional is the left hand for the bouncing of the left stick.
As I said to you off air, I never realized Blumhouse is also doing other stuff that is not horror.
Well, they produce a hell of a lot of stuff. I think their strategy is just, we'll produce everything, and if it does well, we make our money back, because they never know what's going to go well, which is quite true. You never know what's going to be a hit or a miss. Well, some of the Blumhouse stuff, you're like, oh, come on.
Well,
why
they've
did you
done
make
some
this?
awful stuff.
I mean, there's an Unfriended 2 coming out,
Oh God.
which will be interesting.
Me and Adam,
Unfriended 2, The Dark Web.
me and Adam have actually seen
Oh, yeah.
Unfriended. Sadly.
Unfriended, right, is maybe we'll do an episode about Unfriended when Unfriended 2 comes out, because the whole thing is like filmed as like they're on multiple Skype call, right? Which I'm like, how the hell that works in the cinema, I don't know. It works a bit better on the computer because you can see it's like I'm on the Skype call too. But it's so clear that they've edited, right? So it's not like one take. That film would only work if it was one take. So there's bits where you'll look at the screen and then suddenly they'll be in a different background with different hairstyle and different lighting. It's like, whoa, the inconsistency here is crazy.
I mean, they obviously don't care about stuff like that.
Make the money.
Just make the film.
Shout out to the actress playing Nicole, Melissa Benoit. So she's Supergirl on the
Yes.
CW. And every time you hear Kevin Smith talking about her and directing her, because he directs episodes, it's like they're all extremely not in love, but impressed by how hard she works. And it's apparently like really, really impressive. And obviously, when you do a series, it's always takes a lot of time, and you have to be like on the top of your game. Apparently, she's really, really at the top of her game. Just like Karen Gillan is. It's funny because this film brings a few questions like how much are you willing to give to your passion? Well, drums, acting, like compared to, I don't know, having a partner, family stuff.
One of the most interesting things in the Bryan Cranston autobiography, Life in Parts, is he says, before becoming an actor, get your personal life in order. Because once it starts, good luck with that, because your life becomes about as much as the acting world as your love life. Because he's right. It's like if you have somebody that is grounded with you, that you have that ability to go back to, whether it be a friend, your parents, your partner, whatever, that has got to be extremely helpful for the difficult life that as a creative is.
I think I'm realizing that even now. I mean, I'm not at all successful, but like a lot of my friends who aren't actors, they find it very difficult to understand what I do and why I do it, and they also have no idea what I do. Like it actually shocks me all the time about how little people understand what an actor does every day and how you do become an actor. And so I can kind of understand that, like, if you are always working and you're going from huge budget films to huge budget plays year after year after year, you have to have people around you that understand why you're doing something and what you do. Because they have to be supportive.
There is this nasty aspect that you also get in high-end schools like Eton, or you've been told constantly that you're a best, so at one point you believe it, and to stay grounded, if you don't have that what you talked about, and Bryan Cranston by proxy, it can be quite, you can
like
end up killing
talent.
yourself.
The Talent Lie is one of the books that we were recommended to read before the course. Is all about the idea of being told you're the best is the worst thing you can do, and it's in this film as well. He says like the two most damaging words in the English language are "good job."
Yeah, I mean, sort of, because good job is, he's basically saying that that's mediocre because you're not great.
Yeah, because you don't go on and try harder, because if you're talented you don't try, you're like, I'm good already.
Well,
yeah, but you also don't, it's not great job, it's good job. Don't be good, be great.
It's kind of like I was having this conversation with someone the other day about the whole, because people like to bang on about, millennials are so entitled because the parents told them you can do or be anything you want to be. But I don't necessarily disagree with that, because that's kind of what was told in my house, but it came with the addition if you work hard enough. And I don't think it's a bad thing to tell people that they've done a good job when they've done a good job. Obviously, you can always improve and be better, but I think you need to recognise successes along the way.
Celebrate your little successes,
Yeah.
for sure.
I think it can make you insecure on set if you keep hearing like, "Oh, it was great," and you actually have no idea what you just did.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, me and Adam were watching Joe Rogan, the podcast, on YouTube, and he did one with Leah Remini,
Yeah.
who was a Scientologist, and she talks about how people
Ex-Scientologist.
sorry, excuse me. Well, I said was
Oh, sorry.
a Scientologist.
Sorry.
Um,
I just like, she's a Scientologist. Just, whoa.
But she was talking about how everyone around Tom Cruise basically tells him that he's amazing. He's allowed everything. Is not allowed. No one's allowed to say no or even twitch around him because he's pretty much your god for some reason. And obviously, well, for Tom Cruise, apparently, I mean, it's apparently working. But that must be insanely weird to have people kind of work for you in your religion and not be allowed to say anything against you or anything that you want is allowed. I mean, obviously, like of course the guy is mad. Like if you watch him on interviews, like he's a little bit off kilter somehow. Because he's just allowed to do everything and everything is fine and everything's amazing and you're great.
That can be argued for every Hollywood actor, though, because the world that you then inhabit, the idea of like as soon as you do a successful movie, your life changes forever, i.e. people now recognise you. That does have an effect on you. Because you're no longer, well, for lack of a better word, a civilian. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm very much of the belief that it just kind of heightens. It's like that thing that people say when you in films and stories where you take the super juice and it heightens all the things that are already innate in you. Because it's not true for everyone. I think like people like The Rock. The Rock is an idol of mine because he's just a grafter. He gets his head down, he works hard, and he gives back, and he's generous. And he's always been like that from day dot, and he uses that platform to help others, and he continues to work hard. And I think there's a lot of people like that. So it annoys me sometimes because it's that whole like kind of romanticism about mental health issues being passed off as cool. Like people like the whole, especially in the creative fields and artistry, they go kind of hand in hand when I don't think they should. The whole Van Gogh cut off his ear.
The idea you have to suffer to be successful sort of thing.
It didn't make him a better artist to cut off his ear.
Method.
It might have also hindered him in a certain way because he wasn't able to paint all the time, or he wasn't able to do something because there were like large periods of his life where he couldn't do anything because he was crippled with whatever he was going through, like hallucinations and mental health. Like it's not.
It's an interesting one, and I think when it comes to like the things like you're saying about people surrounding them and being like kind of yes men, and it is very detrimental. And I think you need to surround it. That kind of conversation goes full circle. If you have your kind of support network in place from day one, and you know the kind of people that you want around you, I think people do surround themselves with people that
you need people
want to bring the best out in them.
You need people around you to challenge your ideas because one, that creates the whole idea of like I'm never wrong, so you can say anything you want and people will agree with you. And two, even in our field, if it comes to directing by committee often doesn't always work because ideas are just you just start doing it and people are too afraid to say that doesn't work because people are collaborating. There needs to be somebody that says like, right, okay, this is where we're going with this.
Yeah, I mean, quite a lot of actors, especially they.
No, that's the issue with democracy.
Yann in this podcast.
You ask everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone just chats on and then he goes, right, moving on.
No,
Driving the boat.
He's the kind of composer of the podcast.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like you hear quite a lot of actors who are successful talk about how quite a lot of their friends are people that they've known for years, like before everything, became successful for them, because they're the people that are real and they trust them much more than maybe people around them now. Yeah.
The attention to detail is so. There's something that I actually never really noticed or cared about, but that it makes sense. But I'm so ignorant in the field that you can also tune drums.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, never really
Thought
so
about it.
basically, the only thing you can't tune are triangles. Maybe is it?
No,
I guess it's the way that you hit it, a triangle.
a triangle's one
Yeah.
is already a note, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can tune triangles,
Yeah.
but it's and they're kind of manufacturing. It depends on how kind of thick the metal is and
You
how
set
big they are and
notes.
stuff like that.
Mm.
Okay.
It's like cowbells and things. Any kind of hard percussive instrument like that, it is what it is.
Yeah, because of the way it's made. Because drums are classed as the untuned percussion, but really because they don't play a set note, really.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's
Right.
like you can't tune cymbals, but you can tune
The skins, the
skins
tightness,
on
yeah.
the top of the drum
Mhm.
heads.
Oh,
That
cool,
makes sense.
cool. Also, it's funny because you see right when Fletcher is exactly on time at the second. It's funny. I always had massive issues with me being late and subsequently people being late, but I'm progressing on that front. The I had in Toulon a few years ago a dentist who was used to treat Navy officers, and he said that of all his people he was treating, they were the only ones that always arrived either right exactly at the second or within the minute of the time allocated. I always, because I'm obsessed with time that much, that I'm always way too early, so then I have to wait either outside or it's I don't know, time is it's a bit better now, but a big thing for me at some point.
It's actually it's probably really good for acting, because I mean we were beaten, that was beaten into us by Mark Westbrook.
Clock in on time.
Like
Oh yeah.
be on time and be on time for any rehearsal or.
Yann won a $5 because he was there every day and he clocked in every day.
Yeah, we were at 17. I got 10. Emma got also £10. We were
Yeah.
two of us.
£10, yeah.
Yes, two of
Not
us.
bad.
Yeah. We
It's I think it's quite an interesting thing. Someone mentioned to me the other day about the idea of it's a mark of respect. So like if you say to someone either we're going to do this until this time or I'm going to meet you at this time and you run on or you're late for something XYZ, like today for example, like I was at a rehearsal and we said we were going to rehearse at a certain time and it ran on and therefore I ended up late here and it's kind of, they said it's kind of a disrespectful thing that people don't really consider a lot of the time, that time is precious to people, and particularly in the world we live in, people are always banging on about they don't have enough time to do things, so just to be punctual, not even just in getting places but in getting away from things, I think I think everyone could learn
Yeah, I think in that
to
case
be
the-
better
the
in that
issue-
respect.
Yeah. No, I think in
Agree.
that case the issue would be like, okay, yeah, I'm late, I'll be late, but I also need to leave early. So then
Yeah.
you're stuck. I don't know. You had planned to do stuff.
I actually think there's a discipline within being able to give yourself an allotted time to do something. There's a challenge in I start here and I end there, and I've got to get the stuff done in that. So you manage your time better.
Yeah, but I also believe in priorities. Like, so for example, like if you're in rehearsal and it runs on, I'm not sure I'd go to the director and say I have to leave now. If it was something like for example, this podcast, like it's quite informal, so it's like very.
But
that's different.
But then it's I suppose the principle is, are they operating on the assumption that their time is more important than yours,
Mhm.
and their priorities are more
Yeah,
important than
they-
yours?
they
Because
are.
if you did have something else, but I don't think they are as human beings. I think people just need to, I think, respect each other, and I've been lucky enough that I've worked with people that are very respectful of it, and again, priorities, like there is that choice. Do you say no, I need to go? And in instances where I have had to, then it's been fine. There hasn't been an issue. But I think it's just food for thought.
Mm.
Oh, do I go there? Nah.
I'll go on.
So it's common knowledge that we were all in a production of something that fell through for all of us. And we're talking about for respect of time. I was involved in that production for a very long time, and to be recast, which is, I'm not annoyed or disheartened by being recast. That's obviously somebody's choice. It's a creative difference. That is what it is. What the annoying aspect of that is, it's like if you spend so long doing something in the manner that you are then leave, is where that's where it gets annoying. There's a fine line between thanks for your time, all the best, or and then the going, it isn't working for us, this is why. Yeah.
I think that's something else that people need to understand about other people, is that just because it's professional doesn't mean it has to be like brutal and rude almost.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
And because there are no unions and, you know, people out there that are helping, you know, actors starting out and artists starting out, you're kind of trampled on when it comes to things like this. I think we've all been quite lucky with the productions that we've been in. Like, I've been treated really well, except for that one time. But I think it is because of that. It's like, this is a professional thing. So if I've decided to do something, you know, I'm going to do it. And this is about the creative vision rather than, it's like, yeah, but you're dealing with people and their feelings. And, you know, we said no to a lot of other projects, and you know, there's like, you kind of have to think about that as well. So it's like,
it's definitely a respect thing again, I think, because I think what you're saying about people doing kind of unpaid things, particularly at a starting out point, if it's for a kind of mutual love and passion for the work, there has to be, I think, respect in there, and a kind of understanding that both parties are sacrificing something to make this happen.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
time particularly,
Mm-hmm.
I've found to be the biggest kind of, money's obviously an issue as well, but yeah.
There was an interesting post by your classmate and friend of ours, Kat, posted something very interesting, like a screenshot of, say, like somebody looking for an actor or an actress for a role, and where it described it's a very good post actually. If we might ask her if we can share it with this episode, because it's quite a good point. That they go like, I would prefer not to pay people. I'd rather give people food as opposed to pay them. But if they want pay, I think it said, I'll find the exact thing to show.
I know
It
what
said
you're talking about.
said something along the lines of, if you to get paid, if you had a show reel and you think you'd really suit the part, payment is a possibility. And it's like, what do you mean a possibility? It's like, offer it or don't offer it. Like, that in itself is a real disrespect. Going, if you're good enough, I'll maybe pay you. It's like, so you're now judging me on my quality if I'm going to get paid, and if I'm not good enough for you, then I won't get paid.
No, also, if it's a possibility, pay me.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Like, what do you mean if it's a possibility? If it's a possibility,
If I
then
make enough money,
then it should be enforced.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but you have to pay me if you've got the money.
Yeah, well, it depends. There is, I've watched, so Edge of You, they did a crowdfunding, and the funds, they say, are going towards the actors being able to live in Edinburgh, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, they're actually really, really good. We've got a really good deal with them, and again, it's been nothing. It's been a respect thing, and they were quite upfront about. Yes, it's not equity minimum, for like a fringe agreement and stuff like that, but they've never hidden that fact, and with the crowdfunding things, they really are trying, and that's why I don't mind, because they're very respectful people,
Yeah.
and they've towed the line very well, between what you were saying about being professional and being people at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Which is why it's been so much fun to work with them. Because
I think people
they're just class.
forget that actors are actually people as well. Like, we're not just a resource. But
Well,
I know that because there are so many of us and there are people that will do acting, but just because they want to do it, as opposed to like as what we are right now, which young professionals as opposed to amateur. Now, amateur doesn't mean that you are bad. It's the degree that you're doing it because you enjoy it.
What's that? It's the difference between being paid to play and paying to play.
Yes, yeah. That's a weird one as well.
To break it down.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's what I did for Conman.
Yeah, good point.
It was a glorified extra for $1,000, but that's the best thing that ever happened. One of the best things. Anyway, I think one of those things that this film does very well. So there's this Hamlet quote, right? It's so there is a special providence in the fall of a sparrow. If it be now, 'tis not to come. If it be not to come, it will be now. If it be not now, yet it will come. The readiness is all. Bryan Cranston talks about this a lot also, to be ready when the occasion arises. There is one point where Andrew loses the folder, and he's like, I know Whiplash. Like, well, you know Whiplash by heart. Yep, every measure.
I actually said this to Adam when we were watching it. I said that this is why even if you're an understudy, learn your lines and learn your cues and blocking and everything, because you have no idea what's around the corner, and just be as ready as anyone.
That's actually very good. Yeah.
It's definitely important. I think even like without that kind of specific, if you're an understudy or you've got a particular piece to learn for a particular concert, I think just being ready in the most general sense. I'm very much a believer in opportunity, and I know a lot of people who like to put things in other people's hands and blame them for their misfortunes and their fortunes, instead of taking the responsibility for saying, if something doesn't go the way that maybe it could or should have, instead of just putting their hands up and saying, I didn't seize my opportunity, or I wasn't ready, or I'm not ready.
Yeah, being above or below the line.
I think there's definitely a power in that.
Yeah, for sure.
Adam R., if you want, you can do that with a microphone. To move it that way, so it's... No, I mean...
No, the other way? What? Break
like
it in half?
this?
Like turn this.
No, just the microphone itself, so it's actually in front of...
Like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
That's
better,
what you
isn't it?
did.
Isn't it better?
Yeah.
Okay, no, because there's some weird noises. No, it's... So there's
What do you mean by weird noises?
Oh my god,
Oh, you could do
that's horrible.
the new the new Predator. Yes.
Thanks for the nomination for the podcast award there. This is the bit we're putting in as a submission.
That's actually interesting. I have been in an audition where they said after I'd done my monologue, "Do you have another one?" And I had one, and it's like I remember thinking afterwards, like, thank fuck, like. But I actually say that was also part of ACS, like, kind of the way that I was, like, I took the training that you just have things in your vault, like, because you don't have no idea what's around the corner, and also if you're not working, always be working, which I think is also another important thing, like doing things for your craft. So if you haven't got anything going, stop, like, read plays, do analysis, like learn things, start courses if you know there's a skill that you need work on. Like, always keep it fresh in your mind. Like, don't just not work just because you're not in a play or in the film. So
yeah, like if you're asked, so what have you been working on? Well, I'm actually at Domino's these days. No, that's not what I was asking. There is an aspect that was touched on here that I've been thinking about for a while. about arts and sports. So it happens a lot in Magic, and it's very weird. I always wondered why. It's touched on when there is a family dinner and you've got the two bigger kids, footballers, right? Or they are kind of the prestigious kind of thing, and then the Andrew is the kind of a bit less thing. Yeah, one of the guys is asking how about judging art, if it wouldn't be a bit what's the word, subjective to know who wins, because it's supposed to be an art, just like in Magic. You're listening to this now, but mid-July, a few of my magician friends, including Paul Wilson, are in Busan, South Korea, for the FISM, which is the World Championship of Magic, which, what? It's supposed to be an art, just like music. It always felt quite weird to like classify and nominate and give grades to artists.
Yeah, I think yeah, I do agree to an extent, but I think within like the confines of like a training institution, there has to be that objectivity. You can't just say, oh well, it's all up for interpretation. There are still some things that I think you can be measured, like pertaining to music, particularly like drumming, like how fast can you drum? Do you know your rudiments? Can you play in this certain time signature? You know, there's a lot of elements that it's the kind of practicalities of a craft, the elements that make it the craft. Although with the Magic thing, I don't know enough about it to know what they would judge it on.
There are plenty of stuff to judge, but I guess pretty much, rather, my question is, should we?
Well, the only one I think that I don't really get is Anouk, you did the graded sort of drama things you get.
Yeah, Lambda exams.
Yeah, these sort of exams. Those ones I'm a bit odd about, but again, they're not like the winner is. That's like, can you act to this quality, or can you understand enough about this text, which I get.
Well, they're quite expensive, so even that I'm kind of against, because it goes back to what Kat was saying on the same post, like, and then we wonder why there aren't many working class people that are getting into the arts, because everything is so expensive, and there's kind of like a money barrier when it comes to training. And as much as, of course, it can be done, it's also the non-security of the job that probably a lot of people aren't aware that they can, or they don't have the access to it. Whereas I went to a private school, and it was kind of given to us as something that we could do through like, oh, by the way, we have connections with the Lambda exams board, and so that's something that I was able to have access to.
Yeah.
And it was also very easy for my parents to say, yeah, of course she can go, but there must be loads of families that'd be like, no, like, are you serious?
Yeah.
And that was kind of the first step for me to like have the confidence to start acting. So that's when with the competition, I don't really mind. It's more the fact that like quite a lot of these competitions and quite a lot of these exams you have to pay for, and it's not just £10, it's like 400 plus.
Yeah.
And that's kind of unfair.
I don't know. I think there's definitely merit, I think, in not competition, but having a kind of barometer to measure yourself against, and being able to say, these are the elements of the craft that you're just not getting, or you need to work on. Otherwise, how do we improve? How do we get better? It's a double-edged sword, because where do you draw the line between, yes, it is, art is subjective and it's very personal and it's open to interpretation, but there are you know, if you're a painter, you have to have certain brush technique. You have to know certain ways to mix and blend colour. You have to understand kind of texture in canvas. If you're a musician, you have to know how to tune your instrument. You have to know how to do certain scales, which scales work in which pieces, across which chords. If you're an actor, how to block, how to give do you understand character arc? Do you understand story? Do you understand the kind of craft elements? And I think, yeah, I don't know. It's a hard one to say, because if you want to put yourself in that competition and it makes you feel better about kind of going to these big things where you have to pay and they say, oh, we'll give you a wee trophy because you're the best, like monologue slams and things like that.
That'd be odd.
I think if that's what kind of gratifies you and
Yeah, but
makes you feel good, then
usually monologue slams. Right after that,
Are they a thing?
You get yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
110.
you get contacts and networking afterwards. That's the point.
Right.
But yeah, to get magic, 1 second. The way it's designed for the world championship, it's on a scale to 0 to 100, and there is this weird thing that if you don't go high enough, there are years where there is no first place winner, or no second one, just a third place, which sounds a bit.
I think I don't know. I think for innovation and to push the kind of envelope and test the boundaries, I think it's kind of a necessity. As grim as it is, it does kind of make people work harder and experiment with things.
Diving does something interesting, which is you get marks out of 10, but you also have the grade of the trick, well, not the trick, the difficulty of the moves you are doing in sequence. So you could do like one pike, a half pike or whatever, and you'll get like a straight 10. But if somebody does, I know, a half pike and tuck, they get say like 7s and you got 10s. They are worth more because they did a harder stunt. So that sounds like what the magic thing is. Like you could do like, you know, a coin trick or a sleight of hand at a basic level, but if somebody comes out and does a sleight of hand that involves more technical aspects or the trickery, that must be how you move up the rating.
Maybe it comes from the fact that I have issues with competition. Okay, you see in that movie the whole Andrew Connolly kind of thing that Fletcher is teasing Andrew with, like, okay, I know you'll have,
and Tanner gets involved as well, so there are 3 of them.
The way I was raised, so I have a brother and a sister, and pretty much the way I was raised was always with mini competitions put forward by my father between my brother and I.
Right.
So like, oh, you see, he did this, so yeah, competition. I'm not the best fan of competition since then. This is me trying to analyze.
But what were you
afterwards.
doing? What was it like? Who can do the dishes fastest?
No.
What was it like?
Oh, it's. There is a story. So one day, so the absolute person that we should not piss off is always my mum, and at one point we had 2 chores to do. We were given the choice. It was either to, I think it was do the dishes or go put the trash out, but it was very far. So clearly there was one chore that one of us really wanted to do, and there was a competition on this one.
Right. A competition to who gets to do the taking the bins out.
Who could do the easier one.
Oh, right, okay.
Basically. And we've never been violent with my brother, but that was the first time when we were trying to decide who was doing what. My mum was outside of the kitchen. She heard some shouting, and she found us. I was my arm around my brother's neck, pretty much strangling him.
Oh no!
And the trash was all over the floor and everything. And we're like, and she was like, she shouted for the, like, we never heard her shout, like, what are you doing? And I was like, like, we stayed like petrified for 10 seconds. I don't know. But, you know, it's, as I told a few times before, I think I was born to be an only child.
Right.
because I was born, and it was 3 years until my brother appeared. So I had time to like, oh, there's me and everything. My brother he now has a son, and it was less than 2 years when his daughter came to British invaders in the French family, Red and Lenny. Yeah. Which I'm going to do some uncle babysitting duties some weekends, like this one, for instance. Well, when you're hearing this, I would have been. At the exact midpoint in this film, there is a scene that we actually auditioned for. Well, kind of.
Oh yeah, we did. We did the mock audition with Paul, right?
Yeah, and Kat, yeah.
Yeah.
It was the very first audition that we did. Like, it was to test if we're like, because it was really in conditions. Like, we knew Kat and I knew Paul a bit more than you guys, but yeah, it was a bit intense.
I remember I had good like audition technique. Like I didn't get phased by what they were doing, but I remember I didn't do enough in the actual performance. So my technical aspect was good, but my performance side was off.
I was just thinking, I don't remember this. That's because I had a fucking breakdown in the middle of my mock audition with Kat. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
I was like the third person up, and I fucked up my line, and she was like, "Start again," and I just burst into tears and like ran out. And then Paul's mock audition was the next day, and I took that week off.
You took the day off.
I like had a complete meltdown in front of everyone. But that was one of those things where, you know, when something's just building and you don't have an outlet, and so you just keep on being like, I'm fine, everything's fine. And then you go through like a mock audition where like all eyes are on you, and then you fuck up. And then that moment, because you have the adrenaline, I was just like, it just all just vomited out.
I also completely lost my line, but it was more like,
oh yeah, I remember this.
Wait, it's getting there. I was. Are you fine? Are you fine? Yeah,
Didn't Paul say it was like that was a great long silence? It was the most different thing he'd seen all day. Like it was like a really specific choice.
Nice.
And it was that you'd forgotten your line and you were trying to remember it.
There's something.
That's great. That's if you can get away with that, that's absolutely amazing.
So but actually now I know since then, because Patrick Tucker came afterwards. I know that I can take time and make pretend that I'm actually. Like into the character. I'm just actually struggling to get the line.
Oh yeah, I learned that at the Fringe, and I actually wanted to add something to something that we were talking about before. You know, my mom is a psychoanalyst, and she says to this day, like I was in Berlin 2 weeks ago, and she said to me that, you know, the most traumatic thing that has ever happened to you is your sister was born. I was like, really? She was like, yeah, you became a completely different person when she was born. So I was probably supposed to be an only child too.
Yeah, I wasn't told that so clearly, but yeah, I was a different. You know, the Yann that you learn, you knew about when the Fringe came, was the Yann that existed between my birth and 3 years old.
Oh right, so it just disappeared for about 30 odd years, right?
Yeah. honestly, it's weird.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that completely. But yeah.
So it's always a hard theme when you have to give away your dream, right? We've seen that clearly in with Tanya Harding when she's facing trial, and she's just like facing you can't. Or Charlie, we haven't talked about in Bird, Charlie Parker, when his club is about to be removed from him.
Yeah. Have you seen I, Tonya?
I haven't, no.
There's a scene where she's told that she can't skate anymore. And she says, can you please give me prison? I'd rather go to prison than you take away
my ability
skating.
to compete.
And I mean, I remember in that episode we were talking about how we can kind of totally relate to that feeling of like, you know, wanting something so much and being so passionate about something that you'd rather go to prison than someone take away that. You know.
Yeah, here, so basically, Andrew chooses to squeal, thus barring himself from greatness and Fletcher. But, okay, there's something maybe I didn't get. Why is everyone seeking Fletcher's approval like that? Is it because of his contacts and his potential greatness of stuff happening afterwards, or we only see him play the piano
think
once at the end?
I think it's to do with the fact that he leads the band that goes into competitions, and if you get in the competitions, you go up the chain. It's like he is the gateway to the exposure to the wider world.
Because the competitions that he takes them on as well,
They win.
through the school, he says that agents and people that are connected to certain other schools and certain bands and orchestras go to these competitions that he conducts. So
All right.
it's probably something like that.
Yeah, they didn't see it. So pretty much all the competition, kind of showcases, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess so.
Cool. They borrowed some Godfather lines in that film, didn't they?
Oh, really?
No. Yeah, I know it was you.
Oh,
I know it was you, Fredo.
love.
I have a magic story again. It's funny. There's so in this one they talk about Charlie Parker being booed off stage. So there was one of the greatest magic creator and thinkers, Bratier de Colta, who the very first time he went on stage, not entirely unlike Henry Irving, who lost his lines and was just like booed, and he left like everything and went on to become the greatest actor of all time at the time. So this guy Bratier, he was relying on a friend under the table to make something appear before the end, and the guy never got the cue because he started to sleep under the table. And at some point, he just woke up, panicked, and just the table just went flying, and it was like a huge drama. So ever since that day, the guy Bretier de Colta was like, okay, whatever I do in my life, I will always avoid using stooges. I'll be doing my own stuff, and he's created some incredible illusions that many magicians are still wondering how they work today.
I've talked about the time that we were doing Troika at the Fringe 2 years ago. PJ kept on cutting my my last line in a scene, and I kind of just allowed him to do it, like, because obviously if someone cuts you off, you're just like, okay, well, let's just carry on with the scene.
This is my favourite Anouk line ever.
There was one, I think it was the last night that we ever did it. I was like, do you know what? I'm getting this line out because it's fucking good and it's so passionate and I want to get it. And Mark had come in for the last and I was like, oh, fuck it. So I was doing my monologue bit. I was angry, and then PJ came in and I was like, no, stop.
You said this. This is exactly what you said, because you say it to this day. I'm talking.
No, I'm talking.
Yeah.
Classic.
And it works because it's so you. It's so you that it works. That's the only way that sort of line works. Anyone else is like, oh, she wants her line to finish. No, because you buy into it. Like, God, this is why she's This is why she's cheating on her husband, because he just does crosswords and he doesn't let her finish her own sentences.
That's a classic in my house.
That's a great one.
My dad loves the phrase, "Let me finish." So
That started.
So whenever he says it, my mum walks out the room. She's like, "Nope."
You're not getting to finish. So annoying.
Do you think that line from Fletcher redeems himself from all the stuff he does? I tried, and that's more than most people ever do, and I will not apologize for how I tried.
I really
No.
I really don't think so, because a kid killed himself.
I think it goes back to that kind of romanticizing
Suffering.
Dangerous behaviour. Not even suffering, but just dangerous behaviour and reckless behaviour. And there's this kind of people want to be like a martyr and put themselves in predicaments that they can tell people that they put themselves in because it made me a better artist. But I don't think it's necessarily true.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me that's what the whole film really speaks to, is the fact that these are the kind of people that he's a gatekeeper, and he's holding the kind of keys to what students perceive to be successful careers. and he kind of abuses that power in a way, which in this day and age is very, very, very topical. Or
Yeah.
not even topical because it's been going on for a while, but it's been brought to the fore at the very least. And
Abuse
people
of
are,
power.
yeah,
Mhm.
and I think that's inherently what he does, and I don't think it does redeem him. I think it just kind of highlights his own delusions of how important he thought he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, incidentally, for a film about music, it got the Oscar for best sound achievement in music mixing. You don't notice music that much as you would in that you did in Empire Records or.
Well, there isn't a soundtrack as such.
It's not.
Yeah.
Well, it's mixing, so it's like every time they're playing the drums live and the whole band thing, it's not live sound you're
Yeah.
hearing. And the fact that you don't notice that it's not live sound is testament to how well the
mixes. Yeah.
the mix was. It's like with Dunkirk, they got the sound mixing at the Oscars just there. And it's because you wholeheartedly believe that everything you're hearing is happening live as you're watching it.
Yeah, and there's the foley and everything, obviously. But
Yeah.
I think it's interesting as well because this scene when Miles Teller is looking at himself as a child playing the drums, it's kind of the first time, and he has that little smile. It's kind of the first time where you think, actually, the scenes when J.K. Simmons is abusing his this band, it's kind of like, is this really how music should be played or forced out of people? Like, that's what I kept on thinking, that like, of course you're trying to get something great and very technically intense from these people, but like surely music should be something that is beautiful and should it really be abused out of you just to make you great?
Well, look at Joe Jackson.
Well,
With Michael Jackson, like
that's the thing.
Well, my stance on it is very similar to the kind of competition thing. I think people do need to be pushed, and you need to find ways to motivate people and push people. But I don't think the way that Fletcher goes about it is necessarily the right way to do it, because I think in the long term it can cause more harm than good. But I think no, definitely. I mean, I think particularly if people want to be at the top level, and you have to bear in mind that this is Juilliard and it's the kind of biggest school in America for the arts. So there is that standard that they have to meet, and they will be required to meet, and that will be expected of them, and they're there because they want to be technically the best, and particularly jazz. It's a very technical art, and the beauty of it lies in how intricate the parts can be, and how difficult technically they are. So I think it's that again. It's that kind of the kind of spirit of what he was pushing and promoting. I think that's why he's like, at least I tried.
Yeah.
But for me, it was the manner in which he went about it, how he done it. It doesn't really justify.
No, you can't slap the tempo into your students, or like shout out, "Someone clean the blood off my drums."
If you look into kind of any kind of psychological study on this and kind of learned behaviours, and particularly with children and animals, it's negative reinforcement. I think I might be wrong there, but it's that kind of like, you didn't do it right, therefore you're getting punished, and that can cause real long-term issues with folk.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, I think that what put me off on this specific subject was ACS, actually. The fact that the first 6 months I struggled so much with the technique that every performance class was like, I have no idea what I just did. I have no idea why. What am I doing here? And apparently they noticed that I was struggling, but everything vanished, and I stopped asking myself questions the very first time we went on stage, and with real people. So it's
it has to be both. It's like negative and positive reinforcement, but like in a good balance. Sometimes you need more of one, sometimes you need more of other. Like, for example, Drama Centre, the drama school, is known in the industry as Trauma Centre. My friend Charlie went to Drama Centre. No, he didn't. He went to arts ed. Sorry. My other friend went to drama centre, but he works really well under intense pressure. But also intense pressure with abuse. Like it's just the way that you work, and some people can't have any negative pressure at all, and that's where they thrive. So
I don't think the fact that you're using the term negative pressure, I think, speaks to sorted it out. Heard it. Getting a bit of that echo. So I think basically what I'm trying to say here is
can we get more reverb on 4, please?
what I'm trying to say is that as the mic moves closer, like ACS for me, and not for everyone, I found they pushed in a very supporting way, and when it came down to it, if you actually spoke to them about it, they would turn around and say, right, okay, we'll take the foot off the gas a wee bit, because everyone has different thresholds. And I think without that pressure, well, it's that old idiom, a diamond's just a piece of coal that was done well under pressure.
Yeah, depends how you take it.
But no, it's that way. I think you do have to test you need to come out of your comfort zone at some point, otherwise you're not going to improve.
I think the good thing about ACS for me was that we had what are they called? Like private sessions where you could just speak to Mark and Nick alone, and you could say, this is what helped me, this is what didn't help me, and then they can then tell you what you needed. So at least you were getting a little bit of personal kind of, we all need different things, but because of the industry that we're in, and it can be really brutal, I think it is something that might be good to understand and learn, that it's not personal. And
I don't think it has to be brutal though. I think I don't know. I just think people like to think that, kind of like that, I'm a professional, or I'm of a certain standard, therefore I have to behave in this particular way. And I really don't think that. I don't think there's one way to go about things, but I think as soon as you lose the respect for the people around you, you're really on the wrong path.
Yeah.
Because and that goes for, it's beyond anything, the creative arts, like in any kind of business. I think in life, it's all about people, and you have to. I think the way you get the most out of it is if you just respect people. And it's not to say you can't have disagreements, but you can respectfully disagree with people, and you can have differences of opinion, and like you're saying, you can commit to projects or be let go from projects. And I think there's ways of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
of course.
But the kind of lie that gets perpetuated is that
it's just business.
you have to be this horrific human being to do it.
Yeah, of course.
Little quiz. Just one question. There are three stunt doubles in that film. What scene do you think they are on?
The scene where he's blistering his hands.
No.
Well, surely it's when he crashes, right?
Yes.
When it crashes.
So I've got there is a stunt double for Andrew, and one for Fletcher, and one for the truck driver. So
When he attacks him in the concert?
yes.
Oh,
probably.
right, yeah.
There you go.
I forgot about that bit as well.
Yeah, I forget about that too.
Fair play.
That makes sense.
I forgot about those bits.
Yeah,
It's terrible, innit? Pure integral parts.
I thought it was really I don't know if anyone else thought this, or maybe it's just me overanalyzing again.
Your mother would be proud.
My mother would be super proud, or disappointed.
Back up Anouk's mum if you were watching.
Natalie.
Natalie.
We big you up.
Like
I'll see you. I'll see you tomorrow.
Respect. No, I just don't know what that was.
To Natalie Wulfing.
Ali G meets
The
Glasgow.
that J.K. Simmons talks about Sean Casey, his student, who we find out that he kills himself, but he says that he died in a car crash, and then Andrew gets into a car crash.
Das ist richtig.
I thought that was really interesting, because it was kind of like what you do for greatness, or what you would do for
There's a, I actually just remembered talking about kind of sacrificing things for your art as such. There's a documentary, I think it's called The Arbor, that's out just now, and I can't remember what it's about. It's about an actress from a few years back, and it's basically they've taken recordings of like conversations that they've had with her and her family at the time, and they've reenacted it with live actors who are doing like voice dubs and things.
Oh wow.
And it's about like the kind of the troubled artist. And there was someone, I can't remember who it was, talking about it. They were basically saying they were going into it thinking, oh, I'll relate to her and I'll be like, this will kind of justify why I'm a bit mental and it's for my art and stuff. And they came out of it and they were like, actually, it made me go, is it worth it? Do I have to be giving up so much and getting into car crashes and whatever kind of other things people do, cutting off my ear? Doesn't make you a better artist.
Nah.
Do you have to sacrifice your family and your friends and your own life just to create?
I mean, the ear in terms of branding is
Don't think you do.
is great.
Yeah. I mean, if whatever gets you those sales. Well, it didn't, to be fair, because in his time people were like, I would buy it, but you cut off your ear, and
Don't like sunflowers.
I don't want you to cut my ear off.
I prefer tulips.
plenty.
personally.
But also he was
Yeah.
hated, so that kind of added to his mental illness, right? He only sell one painting in his whole lifetime or something like crazy
so
like
he's only
that.
a success now looking back.
Yeah.
And that tends to be the way. So I think in your lifetime, if you look at, and then even talking about plagiarism and things, people aren't necessarily successes right off the bat. Genius isn't, like if you look at Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo or all these folk, they all started off as forgers, master forgers. And it was only through doing that they got to do the things that they want to do. So to say, all the chat that people say about, I'm going to be my true authentic self and I won't do things that other people want me to do and save me to do, particularly in the arts, when you think about it, it's a business. And if you want to make your career, you need to make some small concessions, professional concessions, I should say. Never compromise yourself. Don't put yourself in danger or anything like that. I'm 100% not condoning that. Behave yourselves. But yeah, I think where did this point start?
I've always said health
I've gone on
first, even through
weird
ACS.
tangent. But yeah,
Even through ACS, I was like, and that's one of the reasons why
speaking at ears.
I didn't go to Paul's mock audition. I kind of regret that because I think I was probably like a little bit victim, like, I need to take time off.
Perpetuating this
A little bit.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was thinking like, look, I need time off, and maybe I wouldn't have done as well or hadn't gone through the journey as I should have done if I hadn't taken that week off.
Yeah.
Like,
And
there's
yeah.
things that you kind of need to understand
That
why
was
you
my
did
point.
things.
That was my point.
Okay.
I think going back to what we were talking about earlier about being busy and working when you're not working, I also think it's okay to turn around and say, no, I'm taking this time for me. I'm taking this time to do other things. Because, you know, you might be an actor, or you might do acting, or you might be a musician, or you might be an accountant, but that doesn't define who you are. You are more than what you do and that label. And I think it's easy to get caught in that trap of, I want to do this thing and I've put so much into it so far, so I have to be this thing all the time, but that's really not healthy.
No. It's just probably part of you working
So
as
yeah,
well.
working when you're not working, but also I think understanding and having the self-respect. A lot of key themes in this chat.
Self-respect, guys.
Just having that respect to go, no, do you know what? I need this time for me, and I'm taking that week off or that month off or that year off, whatever it is. You're entitled, and it's more than acceptable for you to do that.
Sure.
Speaking of time, Yann, what are we running at?
1 hour 40 minutes. So I was thinking about, before we go into the rating, I'll just tell you what the future holds for Damien Chazelle.
All right, go for it.
Yeah, so he's currently, so there is First Man, who is the story of Neil Armstrong,
Right.
that is going to be released soon with Ryan Gosling as Neil Armstrong. Apparently he likes to keep his leads.
That looks dead good.
That's quite cool.
Seen the trailer.
He co-wrote 10 Cloverfield Lane. I didn't know that.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. Also upcoming, The Eddie, an American musical drama created by him and written by Jack Thorne, who is the guy who co-wrote the J.K. Rowling play.
Cursed Child.
Yes, didn't have the occasion to drop his name last time, but he helped because she was the first time. So basically, this new series happens in Paris and will feature dialogue in English, French, and Arabic.
Oh, nice, lovely.
Yeah, Netflix exclusive. One last thing before we go into the rating. Humor. So basically, when we talked about Ghostbusters Answer the Call, the 2016 reboot, Adam made a point at the end wondering if we didn't like it because the humor was not for us or if it was just a very bad movie. What is the type of humor that you, Adam, that you are more leaning towards? More situational or gags? I mean, I've seen in the autumn plays that you did, there was this thing with the bed and everything. It was clearly situational.
Yeah.
What do you naturally, and if it's more of a UK thing to be more situational and have gags and all that stand-up stuff in the America, which made it that maybe we were not the audience, and maybe they actually there was no target audience for that movie, which also maybe that's why it did bomb like it did.
I don't know. I've got a bit of an eclectic taste. I love a pun. Well, I love a good pun. Anyone that knows me knows that I love a pun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I really like my favourite kind of humour is always wordplay and wit, like usually quite dry. I really love Lee Mack because he's just, and it's usually a lot of wordplay, and I think that's why I like puns, because you can say one thing but it can mean 10 others, and I don't know, it can be quite funny. But I think it's definitely, I enjoy a lot of different things. I like a bit of slapstick every now and then, the situational stuff. Yeah, I think I can appreciate it. I don't like. I have noticed recently there's a lot of kind of. I'm gonna loose term disclaimer. I don't really know what I'm talking about when it comes to comedy. I'm gonna say American humor, or kind of the American like things like that Ghostbusters movie.
SNL.
Yeah, to an extent, it's just a bit on the nose for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of like, haha, this is funny and here's why. It's all there in that joke and the pun, and
laughing at your own jokes kind of stuff.
I like kind of humour that leaves that kind of thinking space.
A lot more British.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's why I like really dry humour, because it's like it's about reading between the lines and putting it together for yourself.
Okay, cool. Shout out to, if you go on YouTube, you can watch, it was released yesterday, I think, the trailer for Overlord. I put myself forward on Spotlight a few months ago. Well, it didn't work. I didn't even audition, but it's a World War II. I won't say, because the trailer is good, you don't really know what it's about, so I won't disclose that, but it's J.J. Abrams produced stuff, and it looks fantastic. Fantastic. Rating and then questionnaire.
Sure. All right. So the rating works is we introduced as a film good, bad, or just plain standard. Ghostbusters Answer the Call being like a just plain standard, or well, actually I didn't rate that because it was so bad. Or like the recent Jumanji, I would say is a just plain standard, enjoyable, but not doing anything new. With that in mind, there are two other categories. You could either say something's a masterpiece if you find it exceptional. Legendary if it's been around long enough to be it's known. So with that in mind, is Whiplash good, bad, or just plain standard? We'll start with our guest.
For me, was there not another thing? The Vault.
The Vault
What's
is
that all
the
about?
Vault is if you find a personal affinity with the film, if it's important to you.
And it shaped your development as a human being, so it's had also to be quite old, or maybe not. It's 14. It's 4 years ago, so that could work.
For me, it's a Vault, because as a musician and an artist, It just kind of a lot of what we've talked about today are things that I hold quite dearly to me about kind of mental health and being supportive without being a kind of tyrant. And it was a bit of a kind of essay on an example of how there is that grey area, and even if people mean well, there is a lot to be said in how you go about supporting and trying to bring people up. I don't know. And when I first seen it, I just remember being quite going away and brooding in my bedroom, thinking about it quite a lot. I was like, that was a great film.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. A lot of those things rung true. So yeah,
Cool.
put it in the vault.
The vault for Adam R. Anouk.
It's difficult.
Do you want me to come back to you?
Well, I think I might put it in. I don't know. It's kind of on the borderline because I'm thinking that it's good, but like high good, because I don't think it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
For my own personal reasons, like, and maybe it's just because I haven't, it's not something that's like grown up with me. I can't really put it in that category. But I do think that it's got really interesting themes on, as Adam said, like mental health, and also like putting your health first, and being great doesn't have to, be something that you strive for and then fuck everything else. Like, because you can also be great without all of the stress that Miles Teller's character puts on himself. Like, especially because I think as an actor, I'm also thinking on a human level, like you're always trying to strive for you to be a better person. So if you're just thinking like, I want to be a great actor, then how are you then affecting your own personal self? And also like your friends and family who are super important. So can I put it on the border of masterpiece and good?
Good with flair of nearly a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Good master.
Good masterpiece.
Master Ood. Yann.
I've just remembered. So there is a film that was released at the same time called Boy Choir, which is the same kind of stuff, but it's with Dustin Hoffman and a 12-year-old. I wonder if it was kind of a race between those two movies, like Deep Impact and Armageddon, that happened.
Right.
But I remembered that movie, which didn't really leave a mark, Boy Choir. Anyway, this one, I was a bit struggling also, just like Anouk, but I know I would put that in good, and I would have a flair of probably something like Need to Be Seen.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. For me, it's a masterpiece. Today, it's a modern piece masterpiece. Because I had an affinity. I used to play a load of music, and I was kind of that kid, that one that till I actually found acting, I was very much a person who's like I want to be good at something, but I didn't have the mindset to consistently go at it. And I think if I had that then, I would still be playing drums. I'd probably be a rugby player actually, and I'd probably still be like writing songs more than I do actually at the moment. And this film reminded me of what I wanted, and in a way I'm perfectly happy with how my life is and focus on being an actor, but it just reminded me of like, yeah, there are certain things that you want to do, and if you really want it, you will find a way to do it. And also the fact that every time I watch this film, I can watch it it's like watching it for the first time. It never gets old for me.
Yeah.
So I like where I found with Alien, actually, that's where I feel. So Alien would be in the masterpiece category, or I think it was legendary for me actually, because I have an affinity with it. But that's what I mean by a masterpiece for me, is something that I can watch and I never get tired of. So for me, it's a masterpiece. It's not old enough to be legendary, but it's a masterpiece. Probably will. Masterpiece with the flair of will be legendary someday, I'd probably say.
Okay. Before we get into the questionnaire, does anyone have to add anything?
No,
about the
not
movie?
really.
Or
I think we covered a lot of stuff that the film. I also think that's a credit. People might say you didn't really talk about the film, but that's fine because the film made us talk about something else, which is always a better thing, to let a film have its own. It starts a conversation.
Yeah.
I think that's always a good.
That's why it kind of is a vault one for me, because I think, like you say, it's like watching it fresh every time, and I think it's one of those things. as my philosophies and beliefs have changed over the past couple of years. Every time I see it, I'm watching it with fresh eyes because of a lot of the kind of themes it tackles, and it's about that kind of what is greatness, and if you aspire to be that, where do you draw the line?
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
So, Adam R., where's my fucking money? So we have what we call a milk in a wineglass questionnaire. It's based
Hi
on It's based on one Marcel Proust did in writing, then Bernard Pivot did that on Apostrophe, and James Lipton on Inside the Actors Studio. So, a set of questions. Adam, what is your favorite word?
Ooh. A favourite word? I like it. There's a lot of words I like contextually, particularly Scottish words, and it's usually calling someone something.
Bam pot.
You're a rocket or a weapon or something like that.
Joby?
Joby, you're a Joby. But I think my favourite word, actually, someone asked me this recently, is felicity, because it means either extreme happiness or having perfect articulation of the words you want to use and control of your language. It's just a really nice thought for me.
Also a beautiful first name.
Yeah.
William
Yeah.
H. Macy, wife, Felicity Huffman. Beautiful
Yeah,
name.
good name.
It's
What
my singing teacher's name. Old singing teacher's name.
What is your least favorite word?
My least favourite word? Oh. See, don't usually think about that. Least favourite word? Oh, that's a really tough question, actually. I've never really given it thought. Probably something I don't use. Oh, do you know what my least favourite word is?
That's why we're asking.
I was asking you, actually.
What's Adam's least
I was
favourite
like,
word?
No, do you know? You know, I think you do. Go on. On 3. It's probably like, and I think this is like a contextual thing. But, like.
Do you mean the Glaswegian butt, or do you mean...
No, I mean like as in the word but, as in like when people, because like what I really hate is when you're talking to someone and usually about something very serious, and they're going on and on and on, and you can tell it's not the point they're about to make, and then you're waiting for it, but, and then they finally get to the point. I'm like, gonna just cut the first part, drop the butt, and just get to your point.
I'm not
It just winds me up.
Yeah, I think
That's a good vine to throw back to what we were
There's
doing.
a thing that people say, anything you say before the word but, or I think it's although.
it's
as well.
horseshit. It's
It's
Ned
absolute-
Stark. who
It's
said that.
void, yeah.
Yeah.
As my brother used to say, everything you say before the word but is horseshit. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's an ACS thing, because Mark hates when you say sorry and but. And I also, the latest questionnaire we did, I think that was mine, But anyway, so creatively, spiritually, or emotionally, what turns you on?
What turns me on creatively, spiritually, emotionally? I think authenticity. Like when people are just genuinely themselves and they don't hold anything back. Not in a pure, this is who I am, fuck you if you don't like it, but as in just like, they're just like very comfortable in themselves. That in every aspect is really attractive quality to me. So yeah.
Cool. In the same aspects, what turns you off?
The opposite, kind of people who put up fronts and project their own insecurities, and that kind of people who are just false. Because you can always tell.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I hate the word but as well, because it's just like that pretense and that fucking fakeness. And then you like just get to the authentic part of what you actually want to say. Hate it.
What is your favorite curse word?
Oh, I love a C-bomb. I know you said I can swear, but I don't know if I can say that one.
You can actually, when we did our, so that's the one I think about. Yeah, when we did our Bin Laden episode, we learned from Tyrell that vagina pretty much means a sword sheath. So I'd rather use cunt, which is, it comes from multiple things, including a goddess.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I do also understand from when we had Paul on that even though it's a better thing here in Scotland, that word,
Mm-hmm.
it's still a bad thing if you direct it at a woman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very divisive word, but I think it's just the actual sound of it. Like, one, it can just be funny when people say it, like especially in the particular way, like they just use it like vocabulary a lot of the time. But like if you're saying it to someone that you dislike, it's going to land. It's like a punch that
It's quite intense.
it's quite cutting.
Mm.
Yeah, you just have to know what you're doing.
So that's my favourite word. You bunch of cunts.
Cool. What?
Sorry. It's
Yeah.
actually quite interesting that cunt is seen as like a bad thing to call a woman, but vagina is probably a lot more offensive.
Well, it's just like badass.
To say that like I'm not a thing unless I'm filled.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
I'm only useful with.
Yeah, I'm only useful.
Four-filled.
I'm
yeah.
only useful filled.
you
Let's
want-
not get into
Oh,
that.
speaking of, another really good word, fanny. It's definitely up there. Not in the high.
Nice.
him, you're funny.
Nice first name also.
Yeah.
In France, at least, I know.
Funny.
What sound or noise do you dislike? Like. What did I say?
Sound or noise.
Like and dislike.
What do I like? I like noise, a particular noise. Like, oh,
Or
that's
sound.
interesting.
Yeah, nothing.
I really like the sound of like crashing waves and rain on the window and anything to do with water. I always find quite soothing and calming. I don't like white noise. Like, I just think I've got tinnitus. I'm always worried if anyone else can hear it. I'm like, oh God, what's happening?
Well,
Ears, please fix yourselves, or I'm going to do a Van Gogh.
as I said a few times on the podcast, I thought I had superpowers in my younger years. When I had some tinnitus
Good
crisis, it
Lord.
was like, oh, I can hear the sounds that dogs can hear. I was like, oh yeah,
Oh no!
I have
Oh,
superpowers.
Yeah.
No.
That's a rude awakening.
yeah.
No,
yeah.
you have issues.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Would I like to attempt? Oh God. I'd love to do a lot of different things, but I think one thing I think I've always quite liked to try my hand at is I think it'd be really cool to be like a scientist, because I've always been a really curious person, but I don't know what kind of scientist I would be,
The mad
or an engineer. Like just that having that curiosity to go out and be practical and find solutions to problems, and yeah, just quite cool. So one of those two.
Cool. What profession other than your own would you not like to attempt?
Would I not like to attempt? Probably be in the army. Yeah.
You think it's because of the authority or any specific reason?
Yeah. I don't know. Just it's not a kind of culture that has ever appealed to me, and I don't know. Just the kind of thought of having to sacrifice yourself, because I think there is a lot to be said, and I've got a lot of respect for people who can do it. But I think you do have to sacrifice a part of yourself spiritually and emotionally to be able to do the job without giving yourself too much
Yeah.
damage, you know.
Yeah, that's the whole point
Um,
of this whole Libya thing, and that's why I
yeah.
left. Yeah.
I've got a lot of respect for people that can do it, but it's not something that I like people too much. I don't think I could give that part of myself up
Okay. Yeah.
very easily.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
What's happening, big man? Oi, oi, oi. Oi, oi would be funny, wouldn't it? If you're going up St. Peter's like there,
lads.
you're on the list, and then Big G comes out. Oi, oi, there he is. The weapon himself. Get in here, you cunt.
God's Scottish, everyone.
Oh, 100%. God's from Glasgow, and that is the end of that.
God
argument.
opens the door. It's going. It's no fucking coming home, is it?
I'm pretty sure that must be a pub just like the World's End.
The
in
never-ending
in the
empty.
film.
The never ending empty.
Na, 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 na. If you were reincarnated as some other plant or animal, what would it be?
Oh, what would it be? I actually did a quiz recently about what my spirit animal is. Any guesses?
Meerkat?
Platypus.
Can we get the like the
Close, to be fair.
Can we get like the what they call the species, or like a mammal? What
Otter.
Orca.
A beaver.
a beaver?
So
Not you like non-wood and that.
yeah,
Wooden pallets.
big teeth. No, yeah, I don't know. So maybe a beaver. I'll go with that. Make of that what you will.
If you had the opportunity to go and view any culture from the past, like if you were completely invisible, had a Babel fish in your ear, and walked around amongst the Romans or cave people or Native Americans before the European came, who would you choose?
The Mayans, or the
Oh,
Mayans.
we've not had that one yet.
No.
That's a good
What
answer.
wild culture. Their mythologies are absolutely terrifying but fascinating at the same time. And we don't know very much about them, so I'd just like to go and observe what they get up to.
Yeah, I never thought about it because they had pyramids.
Yeah, they
the,
did,
the
yeah.
one of the cultures we know the least about, despite having kind of all the remnants of their society floating about.
Yeah.
Fascinating
That is
bunch of people.
interesting.
It's not like because of the sacrifices and the cannibalism, they actually just got
Yeah, no-
extinct.
Nobody made it back to talk about them.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
Heads rolling down Chichen Itza.
Mayans, what's up?
Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are on to the bonus questions, guys. So if you want to ask questions to Adam R, now is your time.
Ask me anything.
Go on, Anouk. Do you not have anything? Do you want me to go first? I'll do a drumming question since we did Whiplash. Moon or Bonham?
Oh, Bonham.
Okay.
I'm a triplet guy.
Yeah. Can't beat the the Bonham triplet is a
It's
instant classic.
It's tasty.
It is, yeah.
I completely missed what was that about. But what it
So
was
the
about.
two argue between the two best drummers. Sorry, Ringo. Is between Keith Moon of the Who and John Bonham of Led Zeppelin, both of which tragically died pretty young.
Nut drummers are nut jobs.
I know. I mean, Keith Moon. The best thing about Keith Moon he did was one, that his style of playing is almost melody. The way he plays the drums is
Yeah, he's
incredible. He once filled his bass drum with water and put a goldfish in it and then blew up. Like,
And he drove like a car into
yeah,
it,
the
like a
pools
motel
and
swimming
yeah,
pool.
just absolutely mental. What a
Jesus.
total heat case, but like champion
Yeah.
guy.
Aye, probably Bonham.
Yeah.
Big up Led Zeppelin.
Big up Led Zeppelin.
So the John
I
Bonham
agree.
is the John Bonham triplet is a very
It's
powerful,
just it's such a
moving,
distinct
like,
style.
sound.
Aye.
Yeah.
And I'm a triplet field drummer. I take a lot from his field.
Mm.
He's probably influenced me more than
Moon.
Keith Moon has.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool. Anouk?
Musical geniuses. Who would you invite to a dinner party?
Musical geniuses who would invite to a dinner party?
I mean, your own personal genius.
My genius.
Well, that you think is a genius. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah. I think.
Whoever it is,
Do you
can
know? It'd be
yeah.
quite poignant. Not even a dinner party. I'd love to have gone for a drink with him.
Yeah, pint is better.
Scott Hutchison, Frightened Rabbit.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man.
Aye, he was such a ironically authentic guy. I say ironically because obviously he had these demons, but I think he did try to be very open about it in his writing, if nothing else. And
Some of the lyrics.
He was just a really nice, genuine person, and everyone who talks about him, and I know that
Nobody
is-
really
that
has a
is-
bad word to say about him at all.
because
Yeah.
he was just a genuinely open guy who
Yeah.
loved people.
I love the idea of like you and him. It's like because Anouk said genius, so you're about to meet Scott Hudson. Fucking Kanye runs out of nowhere, he's going, "I'm gonna let you finish," but Just saying. I'm a genius too.
Yeah. No thanks, mate.
Okay, so we are going to. So, Adam R., when you hear Adam D say Scotland, you can say the same. Because we're going to say, it's plugging time.
Yeah.
No, it's plugging time. France.
Scotland.
Scotland.
England.
Go, go, podcast rangers.
Oh yeah, we've done this in
Mighty
ages.
plug-in podcast rangers. Go, go, podcast rangers. Mighty plug-in podcast rangers.
Sponsored by Krispy Kremes.
So, Adam R.,
Oh, yeah.
in your music, do you have albums? Do you have music videos out? Any gigs planned?
I have some music floating about the interwebs on the old Apple Music and Spotify under Adam Ross Greene. If you want to check it out, it's still going to be there if you don't. So that's a thought. Get some music videos out. I'm actually bringing one out soon that I've been sitting on for months, and I've just been very terribly disorganised, and I'm very sorry to everyone who's been involved with that. It is coming, and before August, the end of August. So yes, feel free to look that stuff up. If you
Cool.
will.
Definitely.
Can you remind the place you're in? Just because we did that at the start.
I am playing in The Edge of You and Sex, Drugs and a Cup of Tea at Edinburgh Festival Fringe this year, 2018, from between the 2nd and the 26th. Feel free to check those out.
Okay. Where can our billions of fans get
At least 10,000 of them, at least.
get to your social details and stuff? Where can people get more?
Just text me on 07 111. No, I'm kidding on. So I just Adam Ross Greene with a wee E on the end because my ancestors wanted to be posh immigrants, so they added a wee E to sound fancy. Adam Ross Greene on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook,
The whole shebang.
Snapchat, if that's your bag.
Okay.
What are you up to, Winky Face? Snapchat, 4 in the morning.
2 a.m. You up?
Awesome. How do you like our
Eggs in the morning.
our plates on the wall
Your plates.
there?
These things.
And
Yeah,
it's topical because I think it's the 25th anniversary of Jurassic Park, isn't it?
I was
Yeah.
actually looking for like China.
Oh,
there.
yeah. Okay.
My grand's best China. No, they caught my eye when I came in. I really like the Jurassic Park one.
Yeah.
Not just because it's 25th anniversary. It's cool as.
Yeah.
Where'd you get those?
It's displate.com.
Every week every episode we give them a shout out, and Yann every time to ruin any sponsorship chance we have because I really don't like their coupon thing. I was like, let's leave the fact about the coupons because we might get sponsored by them. We mention them every week.
I haven't said it. You did.
You've just shot
I've just
yourself
said
in the
I
foot
know
there.
I've just shot myself in the foot, but from this episode onwards,
I will. There is a plate that will be unveiled later that will show you afterwards. You'll see it's quite cool, Adam. Yeah. So, thank you, everyone. I think we're done. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Namaste.
We were the good, the bad, and the just plain standard, and we were
Adam,
Anouk.
Yann and
Adam.
bye-bye.
With an
Bye.
out.
bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
See ya.